Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my podcast. I'm Benita Summers, and today I'm talking about relationships as an act of service. For many of us, being able to be of service to others is deeply meaningful. Perhaps we're walking dogs for the SPCA, or we're helping put food together for a food bank, or we're participating in a fundraiser for something that is meaningful to us. But we often don't think about the fact that being of service starts at home. In our society, there's a lot of thinking of relationship as a commodity. Like, you promised to make me happy. You promised that I would gain this out of being in a relationship with you. And I think we start off with the best of intentions. We want to love somebody. We want to receive love. But when things start to get a little uncomfortable, or maybe you're having a bad day or your partner's having a bad day, it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget the joy of being of service to another person. And sometimes being of service means having to look at our own shortcomings. In what way are my faults not serving my partner? How can I work on myself? How can I be the best person I can be so that my partner receives what they need? So I think it's really valuable to examine why we give, the spirit of that giving. Are we doing something for somebody hoping they'll reciprocate? Then that's not really an act of service, because you're expecting something back. And if you don't get it, there's a pretty good chance if that happens often enough, you're going to be resentful. Now, granted, if there's, and we've talked about this before, if there's no flow, if over time you notice that you're putting out a lot of energy and not much is coming back, of course you need to discuss that with your partner. Of course, that's something to work through. But I think it's really valuable to look at how we gain from being in a relationship by using it for our spiritual development. And on a spiritual path, one of the number one things I talk about when working with my clients on spiritual growth is letting go of outcome. It's so important, because if we're focused on a particular outcome, it's going to distort that energy, because it brings up that part of us that wants to control for outcome. If I do this, maybe people will think I'm a nicer person. If I do this, maybe for a moment, it stops me feeling bad about myself. There's all these subconscious reasons, and sometimes just barely conscious reasons, why we do what we do. So when it comes to our partner, we've got a day in, day out opportunity to work on giving from a deeper spiritual place, which means offering energy without expectation that anything's coming back to you. You're doing it because you want to cultivate compassion. You want to cultivate that higher awareness, that trust that in this universe, you put energy out there, it will come back in some form. Just don't attach to what that looks like. It's like that movie, Paying It Forward. The idea that whatever you put out there that energy may eventually come back to you. It might come back to you through somebody else, through some other way. So when we just give from our highest purpose, which is to be of service, then we're just trusting the universe is going to support that. And yes, if a discussion needs to occur with a partner, that's part of that support. Is sometimes we have to step up and say, hey, there's an imbalance here. There's something that's not working. Let's talk about that. And if you're in a sacred relationship, both of you are going to be able to get around to having that discussion, even if it's not in that very moment, because maybe there's a lot of stress going on and that can't happen. But in a sacred relationship, because you know that you're both coming from a foundation of working on yourselves, you're both coming from a foundation of respecting and loving each other, it actually gives you the freedom to give more, because you know ultimately this person loves and respects me, doesn't take me for granted, and is going to appreciate what I offer. So there is a difference between trusting that and trusting that at some point that energy will come back to you or discussion will occur if need be. It's the difference between trusting that and going, oh, I'm giving this energy, but okay, I'm timing them. You've got so much time to say thank you or to reward me back. That's not giving. That's trying to create a certain outcome. So cultivating that heart of compassion means that you're putting yourself in the other person's shoes. What do they need in this moment? And can you just offer that because you're channeling your highest energy, your highest form of awareness? It is our limited ego consciousness that worries, well, what about me? And I feel so alone in the world and I feel so separate. And I'm afraid that if I don't rally for my needs, they'll never get met. That's our survival consciousness. So if we're operating in that kind of fear, we definitely need to sit with that fear and work on where does that fear come from. It often relates to something in early childhood where maybe our needs didn't get met. And sometimes what happens when you've had that kind of childhood is you've learned, I can earn love. And I say that in quotes because it's not love if it's conditional. I can earn it by being a good girl or a good boy. And that then translates into being a good partner. So we try to be good in the way we were conditioned to be, expecting it's going to yield something. But that kind of framework is never going to yield a deep, loving connection because it's coming from a distorted place in the first place. It's coming from feeling bad about ourselves and thinking, if I do this, I can get somebody to make me feel good about myself. I'll get rewarded. So I think it really is very valuable for us to look at our motivations based on our core patterns. What were we taught from a very young age about our worth, our value? And were we taught it's intrinsically there, or were we taught that it's earned? So if you're coming from that place of feeling like you have to earn, just feeling valuable in and of yourself, you will probably at some point in relationship get into the habit of overgiving to the wrong people. Because if as a child you reached for love and affection from somebody that made demands instead and would only give you affection if you met those demands, your core pattern is actually designed to be drawn to somebody who fits that persona, that no matter what you give, they're never going to be satisfied. It will never be enough. And that just becomes a vicious cycle that just destroys your self-esteem. So it is important that you're with the right partner, somebody who's shown from the get-go that they love you, they value you, they accept you. They're going to have human moments. There's going to be times where people are busy, distracted, and in that moment aren't giving your pattern what it wants to receive. And it's recognizing our patterns don't go away. They just get more subtle as we work on them. There may always be the good girl or the good boy pattern that wants the pat on the head, wants the affection for having done something in particular. And that's our stuff to work on. With the right partner who you know loves you, respects you, is there for you. When those moments occur where maybe everybody's busy and just running around doing for your partner, and at that moment, maybe they don't have an opportunity to say, I really appreciate that, thank you so much, or to offer energy back. It's having the trust in that relationship that that's there and it will show up. And that allows you just to give freely. It's an interesting thing because, sometimes people will look at a couple's relationship dynamic and say, so who handles what? Who does what chores? How do you manage things in your household? I think when you're coming from a place of being of service, it actually allows for fluidity in that relationship. Because if you walk into the kitchen and you go, oh, there's dishes in the sink. Oh, I'll take care of that. I'll wash them. I'll put them in the dishwasher. Instead of, oh, that's what my partner's supposed to do. Why aren't they doing it? I better go have a talk with them. You can feel the difference of that. You can feel the one is loving and caring and flowing. The other one's judging and angry. And um, it's just a disconnected kind of energy. So when both people are looking at what would make my partner's situation as smooth as possible right now, then we anticipate need. You go, oh, I know when they go into this room, they're going to want this, or they're going to need this today, or they look like they could use a hug right now. And you check in, hey, babe, would you like a hug? And there doesn't even have to necessarily be a discussion as to why that hug might be needed. Sometimes just silently holding your partner just brings your energy into that space where now you can do what you need to do for the day. So when it comes to being of service in relationship, it's, somebody once talked about bringing heaven to earth. And that sounds like a very Christian concept, but it relates to other belief systems as well. If we look at the chakra system, the energy system that yogis talk about, there's this central channel of energy. So it's the idea that the energy of the universe is always moving through us, and we can make use of it for ourselves and for others. But the key thing about that energy is it's always in a state of flow. It flows into us, it flows out of us to other people. And if we're open to receiving, it flows back into us. It's only when we have blocks. And I would say a block is never a completely closed chakra, or you wouldn't be alive. It's constricted. So, for example, if you grew up being taught you're to give all this energy and expect nothing back because that's selfish, you may flow out a lot of energy, but have constricted chakras that say, I can only admit so much back in. And the part of you that's aware, you should be able to receive more, is the part that will be angry and resentful and go, why isn't that person giving me more energy? When in reality, it's within ourselves, that block. It's within ourselves that we don't allow ourselves to receive more. And we don't a lot of times attract people who will give more, or when they do offer, well, no, I don't need that, I'm fine. So if we want to bring heaven to earth, if we want to bring higher spiritual energy, compassion to our daily lives, we have to be in flow. We have to let ourselves receive. We have to allow ourselves to give. And that means not looking at a scenario like, somebody should be doing something about that, but instead thinking, what can I do in this moment? What can I do to ease my partner's day, or support my children, or my other friends and family? What can I put out into the world that makes this world a gentler place? And recognizing that as you build a more compassionate, more open heart, as you allow for more flow, it naturally draws to you people who are more loving and giving and in a state of flow. Your world becomes a gentler place. You build compassion for others. You also build compassion for yourselves, which means you don't put yourself in a scenario where you're with somebody who puts you down, treats you badly, especially if you're that overgiver. It's often typical to attract somebody like that when you're first learning about your patterns. As you work on them, as you build your self-esteem, you'll be more likely to attract somebody who will offer energy back, because you'll just get to a point where you won't accept being in a relationship that hurts you. So when you think of being of service in your relationship, think of it as a meditation in creating your reality. What can I create in this moment? What is the highest I can create? What is the kindest I can create in this moment? It's that just give and take, that flow back and forth that keeps building that connection that says, I love you, I'm thinking about you, you matter to me, I want you to feel cared for. I think that's such a wonderful thing if we can help each other to feel held, to feel supported in everything we do. And if we want that kind of reality, it's not about waiting around for somebody else to show it to us. We can create that. We can build that ourselves. And that's what I'm inviting you to do today. Think about, as you get up in the morning, what's the reality that you want to create? You're the one with the power to start building that reality. See what steps you can take today and enjoy the process. It's not about the outcome, it's about the act of offering that energy. And remember, we're channeling universal energy through us all the time. You're not giving up the energy you need to run your own body and yourself. You're channeling that energy heaven to earth. You're letting that energy come through you and out of your heart into the world around you and toward the people that you lovingly support. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next time.